Hello everyone, what's up? We're back with another video. It's been some time. I have been working hard on my chess because now I'm playing another classical tournament. It's time, and this time it's not actually a 9-round event, which is usually what tournaments I play, but this time we are playing in the Amsterdam Chess Open, which is only 6 rounds. It's only 6 rounds. And this is a weekend tournament, which are very common actually in the Netherlands. So in this tournament, we have 2 rounds every single day, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And that means that since I'm recording this, I already played 2 games and the tournament is almost over. It's kind of strange. But anyway, round 2 recap will be in the next video, so stay tuned for that one. This video is going to be about round 1. In round 1, I faced Joël Groenewoud from the Netherlands. Most of the participants are Dutch, so most of my opponents will also be Dutch, most likely. But there are some foreigners here, which is amazing to see. But yeah, my opponent is rated 2023. It's not 2023 anymore. But yeah, my opponent is a young player and quite talented. He dropped quite a lot of rating recently, so he used to be even higher rated than this. So I knew that it was going to be a challenge because kids are unpredictable. Sometimes they play really well, sometimes they make mistakes here and there, but I knew that it was not going to be easy. However, after e4, my opponent played e4 and I played e6. I'm sticking with the French, d4, d5, and here I prepared the move knight c3. I thought my opponent was going for knight c3, and yeah, I prepared for that pretty well in the morning because this round started at 10 a.m. and I was up very early to prepare for this game just to face the move e5. Again, the advanced variation. Everyone is playing this against me and I hate it. I mean, I'm okay that people are playing this now because I have figured out what to do against it, but I'm sick of the fact that everyone plays this against me all the time now. Anyway, what to do? I play c5, c3, bishop d7, knight f3, knight c6, bishop e2, knight g7. So this is basically the same that I played in the Olympiad as well, the one game that I'm proud of from that tournament. And after short castles, knight f5. So here my opponent played bishop d3, and I was confused because I remember that my opponent in the Olympiad played d takes c5, and then bishop d3. And now my opponent played bishop d3 right away. So that caused a lot of confusion because I was ready to go into this line that I didn't play during the Olympiad because it involves sacrificing this pawn d5, etc. But here my opponent plays bishop d3 right away and I got confused. I'm like, what is going on? And I start spending a lot of time here trying to figure out what do I do? Do I try to go for that same position or not? And then I thought, you know what? There's a reason that d takes c5 is the main move in the previous move. So I probably should take on d4, which turns out to be the best move. But it did take me quite some time here. I spent over 10 minutes here. C takes d4, I played bishop takes f5, e takes f5, c takes d4, and here queen b6. So the idea is that my opponent gave up the bishop pair, but my bishop on d7 is not the greatest bishop. It becomes a pawn on e6 essentially. But the prospects for me are good because long term, if I open up the position, I have the pair of bishops. If I manage to get into an endgame, this pawn is a weakness, and then this pawn becomes a weakness, and the position slowly falls apart. On the other hand, I do have a weak pawn structure as well, so there are some ups and downs here. But I do know that because I have those 4 pawns on the king side, I know that, okay, maybe I can get an attack going on the king side. Who knows? It really depends how the game goes. Anyway, my opponent went for knight c3, bishop e6, a3, and here I go bishop e7, simply developing my pieces, b4, and now rook c8, so I'm threatening to maybe take on d4 or b4, because this knight on c3 is hanging. I have to be a bit careful because there is knight a4 intermediate move, so I cannot just do it right away. Well, I guess knight takes d4 would work because of the knight takes f3 intermediate check. A lot of intermediate moves here. But of course my opponent defends it with queen d3, h6. So I really want to play the move g5, but I cannot really justify it because if I lose the pawn g5, like I'm ready to sacrifice it for the pawn d4, but because of the pawn structure right now, it's not worth it because these two pawns are very sad. We don't want them to be sad like this. So I thought, let's prepare to move g5 with h6. Obviously, my opponent stops me from doing that by playing h4, but I thought that if my opponent tries to stop me like this, now that my opponent castled short, h4 doesn't really feel good anymore, so I'm happy with this. I'm more than happy to go for this. I go for queen d8, h5, and here I go for g5 anyway. So I'm more than happy to go for g5 because after h takes g6 en passant, f takes g6, and my pawn structure is more or less okay. I mean, of course, this pawn on d5 is a bit of a weakness. It's not the greatest, but I see attacking chances for me on the king side. I can start pushing g5, g4, maybe I can play f4, h5, h4, and so on. So I'm very excited to play this position, but obviously I have to be careful that in case my attack dies, then my opponent can suddenly recover, come back, and maybe my king is the one that gets in danger. So I have to be careful. Bishop d2, g5, rook c1, king f7. I mean, the move speaks for itself, but I'll add a bit more, a few more comments to it. I play this move because I want to play the move f4. And in order to play f4, I don't really want to allow queen g6 check. I thought, I didn't really want to deal with that at all. So I'm playing king f7 to make sure that queen g6 is never happening. And I guess it would be nice to play f4, g4, and then maybe some f3. I don't know. I was seeing some moves there. It would be nice to push both pawns together, but really hard to realize, of course, to make this happen. Knight a4, b6. So apparently I'm supposed to play a6 here, which is pretty crazy. But I was thinking that I have to stop knight c5. It looks quite annoying. I don't mind the knight taking my bishop. I would love that to happen. But the problem is that I didn't like knight c5 attacking my pawn. I don't know. It didn't feel right, and I definitely don't want to take that knight off the board. So yeah, that felt like torture. So I thought I have to stop it, but apparently this is not good. Well, during the game I knew the reason why, because white can play move b5, and I thought if my opponent plays b5, my position gets a bit awkward, but I didn't really know what else to do. I thought b5 was coming anyway, and it would still be awkward no matter what, but I guess a6 is at least, you will at least trade the pawns, but I don't know, it didn't feel right at all. My opponent went to rook c2, and as soon as my opponent played this move, I thought, okay, wait, like suddenly my tactical vision turned on, and it was like, wait a second, so many things happening here. I see queen d7, the knight on a4 is hanging, I have some discovery captures here. Then at the same time, I want to play f4, preparing bishop f5, because tactic there. And I thought there's like so many things happening. Something feels wrong here. And also the queen is defending the rook. It's a little loose there, and the pawn is maybe a bit shaky there on d4. I saw some tactics here, but I cannot really force them right now because my opponent has to cooperate with me to make them work. So I started with move g4. I'm just going full send on the king side, knight h2. Here I was happy with the move knight h2 because I thought that knight on h2 is really badly placed. I'm assuming that my opponent didn't want to play knight e1 because my opponent wants to play rook fc1. Turns out that rook fc1 is completely fine. Okay, well, you're attacking the knight on c6. Obviously, it should be okay. But during the game, I did not think this was any good because I just defend. But apparently, this is the best move in the position, to play rook fc1, attack the knight on c6, and then on the next move, you can maybe retreat to e1 or maybe even play b5, which is crazy. So yeah, I can definitely see why white would be better here. It's my position is quite shaky, but this is where it gets fun, right? The very dynamic position, anything can happen. Knight h2, queen d7, here I go. My opponent went back with knight b2, and I was super happy with this move because I thought, wait, that knight, like, that was definitely not the move. That was definitely not the move. And I play f4. I played the move f4, preparing the move bishop to f5, which is why my opponent cannot take that pawn. So apparently the best way to go here is to sacrifice the exchange and allow this to happen. But my opponent went for rook e1, which is also interesting because bishop f5, So I still went for this plan, and apparently playing e6 here, sacrificing the pawn back, would have been a good idea. I I thought it's just a free pawn. I didn't really see the use of it, but I guess giving the pawn back here is not a really bad idea because maybe at some point you get this pawn and things may turn around. Queen f1. My pawn went all the way back. Obviously, I'm not going to take this rook because then I lose my queen. All right. So it's not even like the end of the world, but of course this would be very unpleasant for me. What I also considered, by the way, is that I was initially hoping to play e6. After e6, I was initially hoping to take with the queen, but after rook takes e6, bishop takes d3, I suddenly realized there's rook c takes c6. Both rooks are defended, and I'm down a piece. So I thought I was a little bit disappointed because that was my idea against e6, but then it turns out that that idea doesn't work. So I had to take the pawn, but my pawn didn't play it, so it's fine. Queen f1, I took with the knight on d4, I just take a pawn with me, rook takes, and suddenly I'm seeing some ideas here where I can play rook c2, and I'm getting really active over here. Look at my opponent's pieces. I mean, this looks horrendous. Bishop takes f4, rook c2. It's really funny how the computer is like super judgmental here. And I was hoping to kind of trap that queen here because that queen has no business staying there. And apparently I'm supposed to play moves such as queen b5, trading the queens. I mean, I guess it makes sense because once the queens are off the board, my king is fine. My king is super happy. And since my opponent's pieces are super passive and the pawns are also weak, I guess I can see why I would be winning there. But yeah, I just wanted to win pieces, not trade, Knight d1, knight e6, so I'm attacking the bishop. My opponent decides not to take on h6, sorry for that, because king g6, well, I was planning to play king g6, and apparently the computer thinks I'm lost here. Oh wow, there's knight e3. Didn't even realize this. Apparently this is +3. Yeah, so I could not play king g6, which is like crazy. I had to play d4 here to prevent knight e3. Wow, the more you know. Anyway, so my opponent went for bishop g3, which makes a lot of sense because it looks like the bishop would get trapped on that diagonal, right? Now I play rook d2 with the idea that I want to play bishop d3 and I'm just trapping the queen on f1. There's no way my opponent can play this passively and still win. There's no way. I was refusing to accept this. Mind you, in this position, I have 1.5 minutes on the clock. My opponent has 11. And the time control is as follows: 90 minutes plus 30 seconds increment. That's it. So I am basically playing on increment right now. And yeah, it's quite awkward that I spent so much time to get to this point, and now when I have to try to figure out how to win, I'm running out of time, and the position is quite complicated because as soon as my opponent gets to play f3 and opens up the f-file, I could be done for. Anyway, my opponent plays king h1 to free up the g1 square for the queen. Like, this is crazy stuff. How did the queen get there all the way? h5, f3, bishop d3, queen g1. This is crazy. d4, f takes g4, h4. It felt like I was sort of messing up here, but I still believe that I should be winning here because, I mean, what is this? What are these pieces doing of white? Bishop f2, h3. I'm just crushing it on the king side. I have to open things up because as soon as I get a piece on this diagonal to give a check towards that king, then, I should be winning here. So knight f3 is what my opponent played, rook a2, queen h2, and here I went for bishop e2, apparently taking on g2. Sorry for that, I keep accidentally hovering over things there. I was thinking of h takes g2, apparently I should have played this, but I was a bit afraid to, apparently queen h7 is not a move I shouldn't, but okay. Queen h5, there's some checks there, and I thought, why would I allow that to happen so easily? I don't know. Apparently king g1, king g8, and I'm fine. King g8 out of all moves, king g8 and you're winning. It's crazy. But I guess it makes sense because the king side of white is also very vulnerable, and soon my pieces will join, and yeah, it's just a slow death, I guess, for white. But I didn't want to have... I didn't want to give my opponent slow death. I wanted to make it fast. And I went for bishop e2. thinking that maybe I'm winning material here because I'm threatening to take on d1 and then take the bishop on f2. Or if the bishop moves and there's bishop takes f3 and there's a pin on the second rank. So that's why my opponent went for rook takes e2, sacrificing the exchange. Rook takes e2, queen takes h3, queen a4. It's crazy to me how this position right here zeros. I don't understand. I'm attacking a piece that is trapped. That piece is defending another piece that is under attack. And if I take the piece on d1, I am giving a check. In what world is this a draw? In what world is this a draw? This is absolutely crazy. I genuinely do not understand. Queen h5 check, king g7. And the only move that makes a draw here is king h2. Do you see it? I don't. I look at the computer line, I don't understand. This is some wicked stuff. This is crazy. I have no idea what I'm looking at. So I'll leave it up to you guys to figure out what's going on here. I will leave it up to my post analysis after the tournament where I go into depth in this position, what's going on, because right now I'm looking at this and yeah, right. Queen f5 is what my opponent played. Logical move to attack the knight, and like what other move do you have to try to survive, right? I mean, you have to try something. I took on d1 check, king h2, rook takes f2, queen takes e6, queen takes f3, and this is where my opponent resigned because the position's collapsing. I'm threatening checkmate if my opponent takes the bishop on e7, queen f7, queen g5, queen g6, and then rook f7 to cover the last check, and I have covered everything, and I'm just winning because I'm up a rook. And that's why my opponent resigned, basically. So, good first game. I'm happy with the first win. I was feeling very nervous and stressed. I mean, the opening round, you don't know what's going to happen. This is kind of setting the pace of the tournament. If you lose this round, that means the tournament's going to be pretty bad. It's a short tournament, so you cannot really afford losses like that. And I was playing a lower-rated player, so yeah, it's a bit of a pressure, and I really wanted to win, of course. But yeah, it all ended well. It was very stressful and time trouble, but I made it, so I'm happy. So yeah, that results. That is the finish of round one. What a game it was! It was so crazy. So many people were watching the game as well. Like actually around the board, like they were visiting the board here and there. It was so cool. So yeah, great first round. As I said, the next round 2, will be in the next video. I already know the result. I already know what happened. I already know everything. But you will be able to find out in the next video what happened in round 2, my thoughts about this game, what happened and what not. And I'm going to get some rest to prepare for round 3 because I'll be playing someone strong tomorrow. Wish me luck. Thanks so much for watching. Thanks for all the love and support. I'm seeing some comments here and there from the live streams, which is amazing. Thanks so much. And yeah, I'm going to get some rest. So thanks for watching, and I hope to see you guys in the next video.